Welcome back, folks. Welcome back to the OpenShift TV Coffee Break. Today we have a special episode with our special guest. We're going to introduce our special guest in a moment. Before we go, welcome to the OpenShift TV Coffee Break. This is a weekly show we have here in kind of a EMEA time zone, where we talk all about cloud native Kubernetes and OpenShift. My name is Natale Vinto, I'm Product and Marketing Manager for OpenShift, and I'm here with my co-host, Andrea. Hi, Andrea, how are you?
Hi, very well today, and welcome everybody. Hi, Harriet.
Hello. Hello, Harriet. So let's introduce our special guest, Harriet Lawrence. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, folks. I'm Harriet. I'm the PM for OpenShift GitOps.
That's great. That's great. And for this, Harriet, you see my celebration T-shirt for welcome to the show. We have lots to talk about. I know, and I'm sure you all know, GitOps is a really trending topic. And talking about GitOps, we can also mention that there was ArgoCon in these days. You can see I'm going to share in the chat the link for our present to ArgoCon. All right, first question: What is ArgoCon? What is Argo?
Oh, so Argo CD is a open source project, and it provides, well, in the name, continuous delivery. And ArgoCon has been happening this week, and it's a conference in the US all about Argo.
That's great. That's great. I've seen many pictures on Twitter from our colleagues being there. So it's very cool conference. It's a CNCF event. Red Hat is sponsoring. Also is a diamond sponsor, and we have a keynote and a special event today, the Dev Nation Day GitOps, happening in Sunny Valley, our office. I didn't know we have this office. Fantastic. So, folks, I hope you had your coffee shot, or I hope you're having one, because here we have to talk about. Here we go. We have to talk about very interesting topic, all about GitOps. And I don't know, Harriet, if you have anything you want to present to start with.
Yeah, I did. I brought along some slides, if that's all right. Got some visuals for folks.
Perfect.
Get started.
All right, thanks. Cool, so welcome, folks. If we can go on to the next slide, get to see my face. Hello, I'm Harriet. So these are places you can find me. I'm on Twitter. You can shoot me an email if you've got questions about GitOps or OpenShift GitOps. And if you want to chat, I'm in the CNCF Slack as well. So this is a little overview of what I'm going to share with you all today. So have a look at what is GitOps, OpenShift GitOps and Argo CD. How are people using GitOps in their environments? And then we'll have a look at what we've released recently in our OpenShift GitOps product and what's coming up. All right, so you probably all have heard about GitOps. I'm not sure how many folks are deeply familiar with it, so I thought we'd go over the GitOps principles to start with. So these are the 4 core GitOps principles. They were defined by the GitOps working group back in 2021. So the first is that your system is described declaratively. So that means you've written down somewhere, usually in YAML, what your system should look like, be that an application with access controls or how a cluster should be configured. So secondly, we want this desired state to be versioned and immutable. So we need our YAML files to be stored centrally and accessibly, and they create a single source of truth for our system. So this usually comes about by using Git, but any system that complies with this principle can be used. Next, we want the changes that we approve to be applied automatically. So usually that approval process happens via a pull request to your config repo. And once that merges, we want those changes to roll out automatically. So not only does it pull from Git, but it polls at regular intervals to check for changes, which leads us to the last one. So this is the one that I feel is the real key part of GitOps. You've got a controller that manages and monitors your repo. It polls for changes, and it detects drift between your desired state and the actual state of your system. And it can act on that drift. It could notify you of the discrepancy, or it could do self-healing and automatically bring it back into sync. So go to the next slide. This is OpenShift GitOps. So what is that compared to Argo CD? So OpenShift GitOps is at its core a Kubernetes operator. So it's a package of custom resource definitions, and it's based on the open source project Argo CD. So we provide the access to the Argo CD UI to manage and monitor your deployments, and you can use that through OpenShift. So OpenShift GitOps is our Red Hat official version that we make sure to apply our standards of stability and security to, and you get a whole bunch of extra support when you use the OpenShift operator. So what do you get in OpenShift GitOps and Argo? So it allows you to do multi-cluster config management. So as I mentioned before, it can manage cluster and application configuration, and it can do that for multiple clusters from one place. One of the most exciting recent features that's just become generally available is application sets. So application sets automatically generate Argo CD applications. So from a single YAML file, you can describe your application, list all the clusters that you'd like it deployed to, and Argo CD will take care of creating them all at the same time across as many clusters as you specified. And there's lots more that you can do with application sets. Creating and managing replicas is just one. We've also got automated install and upgrade of Argo CD. So when you install GitOps through, oh no, what happened to our slides?
Oh, we lost the slide, but it was interesting what you say. I took this opportunity earlier to ask you more about application sets, because I know it's a feature which is arriving from some version, but I would like to ask you if application sets are the foundation for deploying applications to multiple clusters. What is the purpose of application sets?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a way to template your applications or your clusters. So you define in one place what your applications should look like, and say you want 3 replicas. You don't have to like write out the application 3 separate times. You can do it in one place, and the application set controller will take care of stamping those out for you and giving you multiple copies and managing them for you.
Interesting.
Could it also work in cases like where you're putting together a DR solution and you want to make sure that you are deploying on, let's say, both clusters in the DR solution, the same version, not only of the applications, but all the configurations, like all the resources that are required, and make sure that they don't drift, so that you can easily.
Yeah. So we've got our slides back.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So we were talking about the automated install and upgrade. So when you use Operator Hub to install GitOps, it'll do an instance of Argo CD for you and configure it for you. It'll be ready to go. And you can choose to automate upgrades as well. So the Operator Lifecycle Manager, OLM, I don't often say these acronyms all out loud, so it's going to be a tongue twister for me this morning. Will ensure that you're always on the latest version, and that'll include any new features and any relevant security updates as well. We're not quite ready for the next slide.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
This backstage today is not working good, Andrea. Do you need another coffee?
Cool. So opinionated GitOps bootstrapping. So if you're not sure where to start, or if you just want to like play around with a non-trivial example, something that can form the basis of your workflow, we provide a bootstrapping tool called CAM. CAM is a CLI, and it uses best practices when setting up environments, and it can help you getting started with a directory structure. It'll create a Tecton pipeline for you with webhooks that connect back into Argo CD. And it's a really great way to familiarize yourself with GitOps if you're not ready to just make your own configurations. And it can give you a kind of jumping off point to customize your own setup. Finally, we've got deployments and environments insights. So GitOps is integrated with the OpenShift console. You're probably used to working in the developer and admin consoles already if you're an OpenShift user. And you can find your GitOps applications in there as well. You can see all your environments, you can filter by project, and you can see your deployment history in there right alongside everything else in the console. All right, so now we're ready for the next slide. Also, how are people actually using GitOps in their production environments? And the answer is a lot of different ways. So every customer that I speak to is doing things slightly differently, which I think really highlights the flexibility of GitOps and Argo CD. Some folks are using it purely for application delivery, and this is probably the use case I see most often, and what I think a lot of folks assume from hearing the name Argo CD, the CD part, the continuous delivery part of it. One setup that I saw was managing 18,000 applications across 4 different environments.
Wow, 18,000 application. Oh, yeah. That's great to mention. Yeah, I have a question after, but that's great to mention. Thanks.
Yeah, so they had 4 different environments like dev, test, stage, prod, something similar to that. They're running 3 different instances of Argo CD and managing access control with ABAC and assigning teams and users to what they needed. So yeah, what was your question, Natalie?
Yeah, how to scale it up, right? You say 3 instances for 8,000 app. So did they make any tuning, or is there any best practice? As you know, how many app an Argo instance could support?
So it really depends on. Sorry, every answer I'm going to give is it depends.
Yeah, it's a wise answer.
It depends on what you're doing with it. If you've got lots and lots of namespaces and like not many applications, or if you've got heaps of applications and not very many namespaces, but you can adjust the memory and CPUs that they have access to give them a bit more oomph and power more applications. So the folks running 18,000 applications have done that.
Wow.
But I'd say that is a more rare case. We don't usually see people running that much stuff, but we often get questions about like, oh, how much can it handle? Like quite a lot. So go wild.
Great.
Other people are doing cluster config. So they're using it to configure the clusters themselves, not just the applications. So you can use, like we were talking about application sets, you can declaratively define your cluster config and then stamp out as many clusters as you need, which is a cool way of making sure that you know exactly how all your clusters are managed and what settings they've got, and making sure that people aren't going in and manually adjusting what your clusters are doing. So one cool example of that, I saw a single instance of Argo on a hub cluster managing config for all the spokes. I've also seen folks with an Argo CD per cluster managing just the config for that cluster. So this kind of blends in a little bit with the multi-cluster management piece, which is the third dot point there. So you can totally use Argo CD to manage a single cluster's config, but more and more often these days, folks are running tens or hundreds of clusters, and that becomes a real pain to manage by hand. So you want to be doing it declaratively and have something managing that for you.
Right. And for this approach, or having one Argo per cluster, who's gonna manage the Argo? So you're reducing the complexity of having one central Argo for all the cluster, but also adding maybe a complexity to manage those Argos. How do you see this use case?
You can use Argo to manage Argo.
Oh.
So you can kind of have the best of both worlds. You can have one Argo on like a hub or just another cluster that manages the rest of your Argos. Or if you've got really stringent security requirements and you need each of them to be really isolated from each other, that gets into the realm where you're either going for depth of security or ease of use. And as you got to make the trade-off there between like what you've got capacity to manage and the security requirements that you have.
And
yeah,
this is just a question from the Pinger gallery here. So there has to be at least one component of Argo that runs on the code than the managed clusters, in the sense that you said there is a controller that is checking if there is drift. So something is running on that cluster, even if you don't have the full Argo. Is that correct?
Yes. So I didn't include a slide about like how it all sits together. That would have been great. But yes, there is the, I believe it's the repo server or the application controller. I'm like not overly familiar with the technical particulars.
But even that one would be managed, like you said, that configuration could be managed by Argo as well.
Yes, yeah.
That's very interesting.
And that kind of use case is becoming more popular. I've found more often folks aren't aware that you can use Argo to manage Argo, but as soon as they discover that, they're like, oh yes, we are going to start doing this, and they get really into it and start using Argo to manage everything. Cool. So for the multi-cluster management and multi-tenant application management piece, if we go to the next slide, we can look about like the different arrangements of instances, kind of like what we were talking about, and how it works with permissions and security. And so these three are different deployment strategies for Argo CD instances. They're all totally reasonable ways of doing things. There's not one that's better than another one. I've seen people using each one of these successfully in production or, development test. They're using them successfully. So whenever people ask about what is like the best way to set up Argo, like I said before, I always have to say it depends, and then ask questions. So things like, how are your development teams structured? What access requirements do they have? What is your organization's threat model? Who's going to be managing the instances? And are the people managing the instances different to who will be using the applications day to day? So once you've got answers to questions like those, and you've got a good understanding of your requirements, then you come and look in this slide, and one of them should make more sense than the others for your particular use case. So we can have a look at each one. The one on the far left is the central hub model. So you've got one Argo instance, and that pushes configuration out into remote OpenShift or Kubernetes clusters. So this is a nice way to get started. It provides a single place to administer, but it does require some elevated permissions to push out to the clusters. So if you've got more stringent security requirements, the middle option, the cluster scoped model, might suit you better. So the Argo CD instance sits inside the same cluster that it's modifying. And you can have as many clusters with their own Argo CD instances as you need. And having Argo inside the cluster means that it doesn't need to store any access credentials as it's already inside the cluster. So either of these ones are really great for multi-cluster management, but if you're looking for more fine-grained access control than those two provide, you could look at the application scoped model on the far right. So this is more into the multi-tenant application management area as well. When you have multiple Argo CD instances inside a single cluster, they can each manage a single application, pulling config from different configuration repos, and that lets you divide up your access permissions even further.
Just a quick question. Could you have a combination of these approaches? So let's say, for example, we mentioned before, somebody may want to use Argo for cluster config. And so they may have a central one to manage and the cluster config of all the clusters, but then they want to have applications scoped for their application and have their own Argo CD instances in each for each. Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Do whatever you like.
Well, I have another question. The example you mentioned before, the 18,000 apps, is that a central app use case divided in 3?
I believe they've got cluster scoped. So
Cluster.
yeah, yes. It was a while ago that I spoke to them. Yeah, so they had 3 different Argo instances, all managing different environments.
Oh, and those are 3 big clusters or many clusters?
I believe it was 3 clusters.
Oh, okay, got it. So it's a cluster scope with 3 clusters. Okay, got it. Cool. No, just to understand how to scale it up, right?
Yeah.
If they have 8,000 apps, but if they have a 100 cluster, what would be the, just to conversation or here chat, just to understand what would be the best option?
Yeah, totally. There's just so many different ways to use Argo CD.
Yeah.
It's always great to hear about people doing it in different ways and how they're going about it.
And if is there anyone in the chat assisting that has experience with Argo CD, please share your experience right in the chat. If you have any question, we will bring to the stage.
Right. So before we leave this slide, speaking of like namespace applications and things like that, there's a really great feature that our engineering team has been adding to Upstream, and I believe it merged just recently. So that's support for application CRs in any namespace, so not just in the control plane namespace. So this one's been discussed Upstream for quite some time, I believe, and it's finally in Argo CD proper. So it means that you can specify a list of namespaces that you want Argo CD to scan for applications instead of it only looking inside the namespace that it's in, which is really cool.
So an Argo app could be cluster-wide.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's available. That will be available in the next version of Argo CD, and we'll be including that in the next version of OpenShift GitOps as well.
What would be the difference between a namespace scoped application and a cluster-wide application? Is there any particular tag or a new CR? How does it work?
Oh, like in the YAML?
Yeah.
So you can specify a namespace when you're creating your application CR. And I believe it's that you use one. It just depends which namespace you specify in that tag.
Okay. Okay.
I can link off to some documentation for you.
Thank you. Namespace.
I will add that later, because otherwise I'm going to be
no problem. We can add it to the chat later. Yeah, that's interesting. I think the application. I think application is becoming more and more a standard for defining an app in Kubernetes. What do you think about?
Yeah, I agree, and I think with the rise in popularity of GitOps and this kind of different way of doing things, although like I say different way of doing things, it came out of DevOps, so it's not like completely foreign to folks. But I think it's a really great move that we're moving towards this way of doing things, and I hope to see it proliferate even further.
Right, great.
Next slide.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, cool. So let's talk about what we've given you recently. So we ship the most recent version of our upstream Argo CD along with each version of OpenShift GitOps, and we tend to track it fairly closely. And we release on a similar cadence. So you're usually getting the latest from upstream within your OpenShift version of OpenShift GitOps. So like we were talking about before, application sets, it is gone GA. So that was very exciting.
Yay!
So that went GA in version 1.6. In the previous release, so in 1.5, we also included some improvements to application sets with the addition of 2 new generators. So one, you can auto discover open pull requests in your config repo, and another to merge parameters across generators for selective overriding. So I've linked off to a couple of code samples here. I believe we'll share the slides at some point. Otherwise, I can drop those examples in the chat.
Yeah, we can take the link and share in the chat.
Yeah, I've got it here. I'll just drop it in. Ooh, I don't know how do I chat?
Oh, there should be a chat on your right, but if you don't see it, we can link it for you. Those link like the 2 generator. Oh, if you bring it in the private chat, we can copy in the public chat.
My first time using Restream. It's a very pretty interface. It's lovely.
Welcome, welcome.
Okay, cool. So as part of the improvements for that, we also added a new flag to sync policy. So previously, you could only ignore parts of a manifest when you're doing the diff, but you can do that during sync as well. So for example, if you've got something that modifies a pod at runtime to have more memory, you don't want Argo to come back in during the sync and say, oh, this is different. I'm going to bring that back to what the manifest says. You want it to keep that extra memory. What else have we got? Notifications. So notifications is here as well. We've made that available as tech preview to begin with. And that's while we make sure that it meets our standards of stability and security before we put it generally available. So notifications means you can set up triggers based on events like health degraded or sync successful, and then send out a notification in an email or via Slack or one of the other available services. There's a whole bunch of them. Config management plugins. These are pretty exciting. They've had a really great update, and they can now be configured via a sidecar to the repo server. So this enables you to bring in the tooling that you need even when it's not part of Argo CD core. So you can bring in specific versions of things like Customize, or you can extend Argo to use something like SOPs for secret management. Encrypted comms. So communication between Argo CD components and the Redis cache is now using TLS encryption. So if you've got any sensitive data moving to and from the cache, it's got more protection during transit. So that's a very nice addition. Power and Z. So we've finally gone multi-arch. So this is the first step on our multi-arch journey. So as of version 1.6, OpenShift GitOps can run on IBM Power and Z architectures. And we've got more planned, which we'll talk about on the next slide. And finally, earlier this year, we published a blog post on the guide to secrets management with GitOps and Kubernetes. This was written by our engineering tech lead on GitOps, Jan Fischer, and it walks through an overview and a discussion of the popular tools and different approaches to secrets management that are currently available. So it's a really great read. Thanks for dropping the link in, Natalie.
Yeah, that's great to read. It was a very nice article. So just recommend everyone going for it because this is a really hot topic, right? Okay, everything is on Git, but also passwords. How do you manage it? And and those approaches are all valid. I think, Harriet, correct me if I'm wrong, the general approach for OpenShift GitOps would go into external secrets, like having this kind of layer where any third-party secret management system can be plugged into the system.
Yeah, so that is certainly a popular project at the moment. We don't have like an official way of doing things yet. I'm actually going to talk about secrets management on the next slide if you'd like to go to the next slide. We can just skip to the last one there and talk about secrets management first. So that is something that we get asked about all the time, like what should we do for secrets management? You don't have anything built in. So we would love to add a first class support for folks to use secret managers in Argo CD. We are looking at several different ways of doing this, external secrets being one of them. And we know that secrets management is really important to our customers, and we want to make sure that we're making it as easy as possible for you to use your choice of secrets manager. We don't want to be prescribing, this is the one that we support, you have to use this one. So yes, external secrets is something that we're looking at right now, but we're also evaluating the other options.
Great, thanks.
And there is some stuff around already. So there is the, what is it called? I think it's there's a Vault plugin that you can use as a CMP and bring in Vault support. It's not like officially managed by us or anything, but it is available to you if that is what you need.
Interesting.
Yeah. Cool. So other stuff coming soon. This is some stuff that we're working on at the moment, upcoming in the next version or a little bit further down the road. So pretty much the further you go down this list, the further in the future it is. And the kind of like wider that we're looking. So none of it's like prescribed. We know exactly how we're going to do things. We love to hear from our customers and our users, like, what do you need? How should we do this? And we'd love to take that into consideration when we're figuring out how to build stuff. All right, what have we got? So first up, we have image updater. So this is happening upstream at the moment. And so when you're building images in like your CI pipeline, you've got a new image, and then it's a real pain to have to go and update your manifests with new tags or new digests for the image. Image updater gives you the ability to auto update the manifest once a new image is available. So that is going to be a really awesome addition. Yeah.
I'm wondering, that what you mentioned is a popular approach, right? You're something update the image hash to the manifest, and then Argo will roll out. But I was wondering how Argo can understand that an image has been updated. Is there any polling to the image? How does it work?
I don't know if I have a good answer to that. I can find out and post that somewhere.
Yeah, thank you. Just out of curiosity, but this feature is available in tech preview in OpenShift GitOps? This means it's already available upstream?
No, we're still working on it upstream. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah, this is the like still in progress stuff. A lot of our engineers on the GitOps team do heaps of work upstream, and so one of our team is working on implementing it upstream right now, and it's yet to be merged. So once that makes it into Argo CD, then it will come down to OpenShift GitOps as tech preview.
Cool. It looks like from what you said earlier that upstream is really close to the downstream, right? There's not much difference.
Yeah, we don't maintain like a fork or anything. We just pull directly in from the latest version into our downstream.
Great.
Super. So server-side apply for patching resources. So Argo CD just recently added support for, so SSA came into Kubernetes as like an improved version of kube control apply as server-side apply. And this is a function where, if you're unfamiliar with it, if multiple users are trying to manage the same field, SSA will provide conflict management, and so you can choose to force an overwrite and claim management of the field, or you can, when you see a conflict, you can say like, actually, no, I don't want to manage that field. I didn't realize it was managed by someone else, and I don't actually want to edit that one. And you concede your claim. So this helps you when you're trying to patch resources that are managed by something else. So that has merged into the upstream, and it will be coming downstream very soon.
Cool.
And I have, if you're unfamiliar with server-side apply generally, I have a link for you as well to read a bit more about it, just in the general Kubernetes documentation. All right, CAM bootstrapping tool improvement. So I mentioned CAM earlier. Helps you set up GitOps and pipelines, provides you a folder structure and webhooks and everything to test out. We are adding more options to the CLI and the API. We're making sure that the folder structure is something that can set you up for what we consider best practice use of GitOps. If you are using CAM or want to use CAM and you've got ideas for how to make it better, or that would suit your use case, please do get in touch. We love to hear from folks using the tool, and we're kind of reevaluating how people are using CAM right now. So it's a great chance to get in with your ideas.
That's interesting. Because this tool, I put the link in the chat. Everyone can see the repo and join with a issue and proposal. But this is cool. Just to mention, if I recall correctly, this is generating a skeleton of a GitOps project where you have a pipeline and then you have the Argo CD bits. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's a command line tool, and you can specify options for how, like what kind of stuff you want, and point it in the right places to the cluster that you've got going, and then it will spin up all the stuff that you need for a test environment.
Great.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I used it just recently, and I thought it was delightful. It was a really nice way of just having a test environment. I needed it for a demo, and it was brilliant.
Fantastic. You see how technical are PMs in Red Hat. Super technical. So you are the first user, right? You can report back to the software any experience to improve it.
Yeah,
that's great.
I feel like I've got like the secret inside track to our developers that can like report bugs directly to them, which is really nice. All right, what else have we got? ARM support. So
yay!
Now that we are building multi-arch, ARM is on the horizon. I know that OpenShift as a whole has got like a real push towards ARM support, and we want to get on that bandwagon as well.
Well, if you think about the edge use case, right? Multiple cluster, let's say one Argo per cluster, one Argo per device. ARM support is definitely great. I don't know if you already know about edge use case with OpenShift GitOps, just out of curiosity.
Yeah, we've got quite a few customers with those kind of use cases that are either already using GitOps for it or evaluating it and getting ready to roll out a whole heap of applications.
Great.
Cool, what else have we got? Multi-tenancy and permissions guide. So I'm really excited about this one. So our developers and our documentation writers have been collaborating on a really big new piece of documentation. And it is a guide to how permissions and multi-tenancy work in OpenShift GitOps and how to utilize those to create the access control that you need for your organization. I don't have a firm date of when that's going to be available, but keep your eyes peeled because it's going to be awesome. It's really thorough and it's amazing.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have a question around that. I've seen that, even in the list of features and capabilities, you've been talking about guides and documentation, and how basically help the users understand how to best utilize Argo CD in their GitOps. Are there also or planned classes from Red Hat training that would allow people to learn how to get the best out of it, how to the do's and don'ts, if you wish?
We do have a set on the Red Hat developer website of video tutorials. I can't, Natalia, would you be able to drop a link to those as well?
Yeah.
Thanks. They're really awesome way to, they're quite introductory, like get familiar with GitOps and start using it. I would love to add some more of those. So if you've got any suggestions, please let me know. And if anyone wants to drop suggestions in the chat for like tutorials or like video guides that you would love to see, please let us know. We'd love to hear about it.
Thank you.
All right, last one, progressive delivery. So this one we get so many questions about, and is like a really exciting topic for folks at the moment. So we are looking at lots of different ways to support folks' different deploy strategies. So if you want canary deploys or blue-green deploys, that's two of the really popular ways of doing stuff. And as part of that, primarily, we are evaluating Argo rollouts as a project. So even though they share the Argo name, Argo rollouts and Argo CD are separate code bases. So unfortunately, we can't just like flip on support for Argo rollouts. But our team is having a look at it right now. We even had a meeting about it just yesterday. So we will be providing some kind of an answer to progressive delivery for folks using OpenShift GitOps. And there is a reasonable possibility that it's going to be Argo rollouts. So there will be something coming. We are working on it right now. I know we already have a lot of folks using Argo rollouts directly. You can use whatever you like if you want to manually install it and maintain it yourself. So I think we've already got about 1,800 instances of rollouts running in OpenShift GitOps. So folks are using it and getting value out of it, and that's awesome.
Super, super interesting. Progressing delivery has been one of the hot topic, and we have some books talking about it. We will share after in a moment. We have some book about GitOps published on developerswithdata.com. Progress delivery is also one of this topic, so very interesting. Did you put the secret as a last,
Yeah.
like best, best at least. I don't know how to say in English. Here is a dulcis in fundo, best at least. At last.
The best one for last. So yes, that is probably the furthest one away. But I kind of stole everything I was going to say about it to talk about it at the start. I was just going to say that we're looking at different ways of doing this, and
so you did mention that you were looking at specific secrets managers. You mentioned one, but I didn't catch the name because I wanted to look at it.
Oh, I mentioned that there is already a plugin for Vault, HashiCorp Vault.
Okay. That's what I missed.
We're looking more broadly at things like external secrets that allow you to use whatever you're already using instead of specifying a specific one that you should use. Cool. That's all I've got for today.
I'm gonna share the link to external secrets since you mentioned it. And we have one question in the chat. There's Fabio asking that he would like to hear something about Argo CD competition. So in this GitOps landscape, we know Argo is not the only player, but can you mention others and why Argo you think it's a good? Why OpenShift GitOps selected Argo as their primary option?
Yeah, so the main one that you'll probably hear about in the same breath as Argo is Flux. So that was created by Weaveworks. Weaveworks are the folks that are credited with coining the term GitOps as well. There are a bunch of others that are playing in the same space, but Argo and Flux seem to be the ones that come up most often. Why did we choose Argo CD? So I'm actually fairly new to Red Hat. I joined in February this year, and our OpenShift GitOps product has been around since the start of last year. So I was not around for the choice of choosing Argo CD. I do know that it is a delightful tool, and we have a bunch of our engineers are upstream contributors and maintainers. So perhaps it was that we were already invested in that community, and we thought it was looking very promising. I'm not sure.
That's a good point.
If one goes and looks at the community site for Argo CD, there is a huge list of adopters of Argo CD. My question is, how many contributors, though, and is Red Hat one of the main contributors, the ones that does more commits?
So I think everyone, so our engineering team is about, well, how many people have we got now? It'd be 10 to 15 people on our engineering team, and they all commit upstream.
But are there other organizations that are playing a big part in it?
Yeah, definitely. So we're just one of them. There's also a few of the main folks who help the maintainers be functional together are from Intuit. They help run the monthly calls and that kind of stuff. And I know they have a big investment in Argo CD as well, and they have a lot of contributors on their side. The folks from Acuity, and I believe there's some IBM folks in there. There's people from all over. It's a nice collaborative community that we've got going there.
It's great, and I can see from ArgoCon, it's an on-site event, but you can see the paths on socials and the website of the event. That's great content. I think the community is really growing, and that's great to see.
Yeah, totally. And I believe all the recordings from ArgoCon should be available online. I'm not sure when, but at some point.
Great, because we have some good talk from Red Hatters over there. So we have also a lab. So if you had the chance to go, you still can go to the Dev Nation GitOps Day. Otherwise, you can catch up with the recording on YouTube. I think after a while, they publish on the CNCF YouTube.
Yeah.
Cool. About community, Harriet, I have another question. So you mentioned you discussed this feature in upstream from a while. No, you were discussing one of this feature. But if one want to join the Argo CD community, want to propose a feature, how does it work?
Yeah, so there is the Argo Proj GitHub organization, and that you can go there and see all of the different repos that they've got where Argo Core lives, and there's also Argo Proj Labs, which is where they kind of incubate ideas of things that could be part of Argo one day, or are kind of like slightly left of what they're currently doing. Interesting things that you can add into your Argo CD. And I would say go and check out what's going on up there, have a read through the issues and pull requests. They've got contributing guidelines there in the contributors markdown document. If you're more of a face-to-face person, there are community meetups every month. I believe they are on Thursdays. Definitely on a cadence. I can't remember how often they happen. I assume they're monthly.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, there's a GitOps working group, right? Something on Slack, if I recall correctly.
That happens in the CNCF Slack.
Yes.
And there's a bunch of really great channels in that Slack as well about Argo and GitOps, and you can go there and see what other people are talking about, what questions they've got, and chat with other folks who are already using those products.
Great, and it's great to know that Red Hat has put engineering efforts in the project. You say 10, 15 people working on the project, which is really cool. So, and it's really cool also, Red Hat is bringing business use case, no production use case, back to upstream. No, if there is anything missing, it goes upstream and then it come back downstream to the operator. And talking about the operator, Harriet, so the operator is what we deliver basically, right? We is it, and you told us the version is close to Argo CD upstream. The operator is the one we support as Red Hat, so the installation via the operator. How does it work if you want to install OpenShift GitOps in your cluster?
Yeah, so if you've got your OpenShift cluster running, you can go to Operator Hub. You can search for GitOps, and our OpenShift GitOps operator will appear for you. It has a really friendly install. You just click install, and it will go and do everything for you. So you can choose what channel you want to install. You can pin to a specific version, or you can just choose latest. We actually did just recently deprecate the preview and stable channels, and we've moved to latest. So it's called latest. It is stable. Please do not worry, folks. We are getting rid of stable and preview channels, and the latest, most stable is available in the latest channel. And if you stay in the latest channel, you'll get the newest updates, you'll get the latest versions, all the latest patches, all that kind of stuff.
That's great to hear. And since you mentioned patch, Red Hat is also responsible on the security patch, no, on the when something happens. So if there's anything that need to be patched, the operator can automatically patch the software.
Yes, it can. And so because we are a vendor of Argo CD, we get told about any problems that pop up as part of the embargo period. So we will have a patch ready to go as soon as they're announced. And you can update to the latest version.
Interesting.
And I do have another question, which is more about, it looks like there is great freedom in how you decide your topologies and how you decide how to set it up. Are there, and maybe they're not documented yet, but are there anti-patterns that we know about and that you should warn people of?
Anti-patterns. Yes, I'm sure there is a bunch of anti-patterns out there. The one that comes to mind is just kind of duplicating your YAML. So if you've got like multiple branches that you're using for like dev, stage, prod, we recommend using something like Customize to have like a base description and then overlay with the specific differences between each one. If you find yourself duplicating YAML in multiple places and having to go to multiple places to change stuff, I would consider that an anti-pattern.
Excellent.
It's great you mentioned Harriet, because I also wanted to link a very nice book from our friend Christian Hernandez, wrote the Path to GitOps. Is a book where he mentioned all those best practices like avoiding multiple YAMLs. And if you are interested, you can download this book from for free from developer.com.
It's a very good book. You should definitely read it. It's only about 45 pages, so you can get through it nice and speedily. My copy I have on my iPad. It's covered in notes. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I really recommend you to download it. And talking about books, if you want, we have another book called Getting GitOps, another book talking about GitOps on OpenShift specifically. You can download it for free, always from the portal. And we have another book called the GitOps Cookbook, a list of made by, but also by me and my colleague Alex. We're sending the last chapter, so it should be really available soon. And we used, for instance, already the external secret example, Vault example, Argo rollouts or progress delivery. So that was a part of the receipt. They will be published very soon.
And you can get early access chapters available already, can't you?
Exactly. You can go to the website, get the early access chapter, and read it before we publish it. It's going to be available for free on the website, but in the while you can download the raw edits with all the syntax error, of course. Well, that was great, Harriet. Thank you very much for this session. We learned a lot, I think, about GitOps. A lot. Also, Andrea was not very familiar with the topic. I think now you are super expert.
I'm just getting started, and that was very informative to me. And obviously, I will go through most of those links. I started reading a couple of books, but I still have to put it in practice. So,
Path to GitOps is a great introduction. It's a good place to start.
Yeah, a very good read. You have the books, Andrea. You have the labs, self-paced labs on our developer.com link I put in the chat before. Let me put again. So if you want to learn about GitOps, we have some labs, some tutorial. And if you want to try on OpenShift, as I already mentioned, you go to the Operator Hub, and then you can try yourself by installing it, basically. That was great. Thank you very much, Harriet, for joining today. It was really a pleasure to have you, and I hope to have you for another episode, for another updates on the GitOps.
That'd be great.
Thank you very much, Andrea. We have some appointment before we close, and also announcing we're moving to bi-weekly, so we'll not be here next Wednesday. We're going to be the next Wednesday. If today we have the usual show on OpenShift TV, this afternoon for us here in EMEA, the Level Up Hour, Ask an Admin, and we come back in 2 weeks, always Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. British time or 10 a.m. Central summertime. It was really a pleasure to have you all here. Thank you for everything, and talk soon. Ciao.
Thanks, folks.